A cashless society is the goal of the technocratic elite, to eliminate the possibility of being able to transact between two individuals without the government's knowledge. As technology advances, there have been new methods of paying for goods and services: credit cards, debit cards, Apple Pay, email, and more. This can be used as a trap, however, as people become more accustomed to using digital means rather than paper. You came here for the truth, so let me unveil that for you. Let's talk today about the EU. There's something going in place right now which I believe is very worrisome. And it's a policy being applied globally, and it's done asymmetrically. And this makes it very difficult for individuals, the average individual, to pick up on. And what's important to note is that all of these plans that you see governments coming out with are not by accident. Every single thing is pre-planned. And we have to not forget that. I mean, we see these changes happening. We see countries fighting against each other, either, sort of more in the rhetoric or actual physical fighting. But you have to understand that everything has been pre-planned, and we cannot lose sight of that. Very crucial. All right, let's get into it right away. Beginning with this, just wanted to highlight the one point that they make here. The title of the initiative: Proposal for an EU Initiative on Restrictions on Payment in Cash. So, this is very new information. Let's get into it. And by the way, we're looking at the actual document here right out of europa.eu. I always like to bring you the actual document itself and not somebody else's word. What we have is part of it anyway. I'm not going to read you the whole thing, make you fall asleep. But essentially, the Commission published a communication to the Council and the Parliament on an action plan to further step up the fight against the financing of terrorism. Now, that is the way that they propose to implement this and have their means to do so. You always use terrorism and always instill fear in the public, regardless if it's true or not. The action plan builds on existing rules, and it goes on to in line with international standards. All right. This is what they said, beginning right here. Payments in cash are widely used in the financing of terrorist activities. In the context, the relevance of potential upper limits to cash payments could also be explored. And they have in place prohibitions for cash payments above a specific threshold. Okay? What this seems to me is that they will begin by eliminating, and it talks about it right here, the elimination of the 500 euro banknote, considering that it could stop the issuance of around 2018, so fairly soon, next year. And what they would do is, in a multi-step process, eliminate the higher bills. Look at what happened in India. Then you have cash restrictions and suggest that, look, you want to pay for that, I don't know, let's say you bought a laptop or two laptops or a laptop and a computer and something else, and maybe that was $2,000 or $5,000, whatever. And they say, I'm sorry, sir, unfortunately, due to the money laundering law, you will need to pay with a credit card, debit card, anything else. And no longer is it about the fact that, yes, you have valid, legitimate currency. It doesn't matter. They want you to pay through their systems that they can track and control everything. And for obvious reasons, there's a good side to that. I get it. But the truth, why they put this into place, is simply because of control. This is all part of the technocratic elite's plan. There's no real denying that fact. And we look at it every single day, all of their plans. We saw this in the US even, where they had implemented, different banks had implemented some form of capital controls, and they did so completely asynchronously. It seemed to me, or the onlooker, that there's nothing sinister going on. It's just a bank implementing a policy that people will need to abide by, and that's all. But I'm not buying that. I simply don't buy that. I mean, I do think that everything is largely controlled by the hands of the few, and therefore will definitely be dictating to those underneath. It's just the way it is. Now, this is something that we are going to definitely keep our eyes on. We need to know what's happening with capital controls, with bank holidays, and all of the other schemes that we've been following. Very, very key right now. In fact, more than ever. Let's go on right here. Indian Prime Minister Modi has already removed 86% of the country's currency from circulation in an attempt to, here's it, 1, curb tax evasion, tackle corruption, and shut down the shadow economy. It may very well do so. And you look at it on an individual basis. You may say, India has to do this. This is absolutely a requirement. Or you look to another country and think, this is the problem, this is their solution, and it actually may work. But you're not understanding the plan from the globalists, from the elite that sit above these governments that are dictating the policies. Always, always look to the bigger picture. I call it zooming out. When you look at something, you always, no matter how deep your knowledge goes, you always have this narrow-minded view. Now, your definition of narrow-minded obviously depends on your level of knowledge. But we always have to do our best to say, okay, this is what I believe, but what could it be? I'm going to keep my eyes open, I'm going to keep my ears open, and I'm just going to take it how it is. At this time, this is what I believe, but I'm willing to accept some other decision, some other possibility. Always have that in your head. I think it is very important. Now, before I go on more of a rant, Joseph Stiglitz, I like this guy's book, Globalization and Its Discontents. It was a great book. But you have to understand that this is an individual who is obviously interconnected with those at the top, or, in terms of the minions of the system. He said, look, we got to phase out currency and move towards a digital economy that would on the long term have benefits that outweigh the costs. And where does he say this? The World Economic Forum. They always have these big shots there who claim to know everything, who suggest a $100 trillion bazooka in order to fix the problems. $100 trillion bazooka, yeah. And you go from a paper currency into a digital economy as a way to fix the problem, but that's not the problem. The problem is the system itself. And I get it. You want to create these solutions, you're so smart and all this stuff, but ultimately, in most cases, they're not addressing the root cause. Maybe they don't think they could change the root cause, but we at least have to point to it. We need to point to that. That's the reason why everything is so messed up right now. All right, now this one here, in a new book, Curse of the Cash, this individual who's a professor at Harvard argues for phasing out paper money in the US, starting with the big bills and slowly letting small denominations fall towards disuse. Check out what he said. Paper currency has become a major impediment to the smooth functioning of the global financial system. I would definitely disagree with that. Now, I think you as an individual, you should have the choice. That's what it always comes down to. You should have the choice. I want to pay with my debit card. I want to pay with my credit card, Apple Pay, currency in coins, currency in bills. I want to pay with email transfer. I want to have that choice. But when you take it out of circulation, you remove that individual's choice. And I think that's very dangerous. Because ultimately, let's say they only had one means, you only had just a credit card, or eventually I could see them going towards either some sort of chip or some sort of, it's in your cell phone or whatever. And the fewer means of transacting, the worse it is. The more means of transaction, the better. There's competition. There is more safety and security in that, I believe. And it ultimately gives people that choice. And I believe that this is very, very critical. It goes on in here. I won't cover any more from this article. Basically, it's the same sort of thing, and it's happening globally. This, I just thought it was interesting to mention. Carlos Slim basically said that, let me talk to Trump. I'll make him see the light. Let me talk with him. Let me see what I can do. I just thought it was funny that one billionaire to talk to another. The GDP, the official scorecard for the economy, this is in the US, expanded at a 1.9% annual clip from October to December. That's a market drop from 3.5% growth rate in the third quarter and below 2.2% under the consensus. Okay, it's definitely had gone down. We'll see what happened, in the first quarter of 2017. All I will say is that the economy is suffering, is hemorrhaging at this time, and it needs a major, major turnaround. So we'll see what happens. When I see the stock market go up, ultimately it doesn't help. Really doesn't help. It's not going to push up the economy in any way. If you invest in the stock market and the stock market rises, you could take advantage of that. People's pension funds and everything. But you look at the actual stock market, how well it's done, and then you compare that to pension funds and everything else, they're bankrupt. So explain that to me. Well, those in control gambled away the profits, gambled away everything to do with these, you put your money in their hands and they basically screw it up. This is what is occurring, and we will see that ultimately it's just going to get worse in this regard. Forget about the number of the stock markets, what do you see them at? You need to understand what's more important. If you found this video informative, please give me a thumbs up. Last but not least, if you found the video informative, I know you'll find my book, The Money GPS, even more informative. So head over to Amazon because they have this look inside feature. It's going to allow you to flip through the pages of the book and see if you like it. Take care.